As if you're listening to news here yesterday afternoon, you'll have heard that Pleanála has decided to delay indeed the publication of its final decision. Kenny Deery, Chief Executive of Galway Chamber, joins me on the line. Kenny, good morning to you. Further delays.
Good morning, Keith.
Further delays, but they're saying that they're hoping we will have the outcome of their deliberations before the end of the year.
Yes, that's what has been intimated to ourselves as well, and it really needs to happen at this stage, Keith. It's like Groundhog Day from a point of view of you and I have been talking about this. I think this is the fifth deferral, and the passage of time is not a friend to this project. I think that's one important point to make. And this is not just about the business community, this is about the wider community in the west of Ireland, and this just isn't about Galway and Galway City, but we're not going to be able to change Galway City and the way we use the city until such time as the ring road is in place, and the wider region will be hugely positively impacted as a result of it. But I think that the bit, Keith, at this point that we're really concerned about the delays and the extensions. We're also concerned about some of the narrative coming from certain parts of government around the project, and then we're reassured by the narrative coming from other parts of government. But it's a bit of a confused scenario at the moment, and I believe from conversations that I've had with industry leaders, and actually this came up as a topic at the Galway Chamber Business Lunch last week as well, investment decisions are being made now, and they're being made on the basis of will this project happen or not. And I think one of the bits from a people living in Galway perspective and the West, we have a lot of big employers and investments in the city and in the county which are really valuable and important. But I would go as far as to say at this stage that the sustainability of those projects being here in the long term could be questioned as a result of the continuing delays on this project. Industry leaders want to see this infrastructure delivered because they want to know that if they're making decisions to expand and to continue to operate here, that their team members are going to be able to get in and out of work on a daily basis. And this project is a key enabler of that. So I think that's really important. And one of the bits, Keith, at this stage that really we're reaffirming our efforts, and I think in line with if there is a decision before Christmas, we absolutely welcome that. We need it. But as a community, we need to come together and really rally and support this project. And what I'm finding so far, Keith, is many in business and indeed in political and community life want the project in private conversations, but they're afraid to come out and talk about it in a positive way because there is a strong lobby against it as well, who are citing alternative ways of moving around the city. And those ways are really important and they're part of the Galway Transport Strategy. But the bit they're missing is those ways of moving around the city will never be delivered if this project isn't delivered. It's hand in glove together. Yeah. So we really need to get behind this.
But I mean, the image of Galway Inc., for want of a better word, around the world is one of traffic. So I think the sooner the decision is made, the sooner, like whatever way the decision is going to go, I'm sure it'll be appealed across the board and one way or the other. But whatever way it goes, we need a final decision, as in a concrete final decision, so that Brendan McGrath and Jim Cullen and whoever's in the council and all of those people can go to Plan B. I don't know, is there a Plan B? But we've already lost one a few years ago and it hurt a lot of people. If we lose this one, we're in serious difficulty. I was at a meeting yesterday, Kenny, in Ballybrit, in Ballybrit, but I got there early because traffic wasn't too bad. But I went in around Parkmore and Medtronic and all those. I mean, that's a big city that's in there with thousands of people working there.
There are indeed. And I think, when you talk to the brand of Galway, there's so many strong points to the brand of Galway. And I think that's why we have many of these companies here. But this is a fly in the ointment. And this is becoming a bigger fly in the ointment that we need to deal with. And I think the passage of time, as I say, is a really, really critical component here that this project, we need to move through the stages and we need to give people a sense of hope, right? And you look at Ballybrit, Parkmore, you talk to that area, in some of those car parks, there's on average between 10 and 12,000 cars parked in there. And many will say, well, listen, we need a modal shift and we need to move those people to cycling and to public transport. That's fine for those who are around the city once that enabling infrastructure is there. But many thousands of those cars are coming from around the region. And so they're not going to be cycling. There isn't the public transport, nor would it be viable to deliver the public transport that's required to every corner of the region. That's why this road is really important. And I think as we move further down the road and the EVs, the electric vehicles, come in, the debate that more cars is going to lead to more carbon and fumes, etc., that's actually been dissipated, because by the time 2030 comes, and we'll be optimistic that the road will be delivered by 2030, the majority of the nation's fleet will be EVs at this stage. It'll be those that will be using the road, but they'll be zooming around and moving much faster than we are at present. So I think, from a Galway point of view, there's a very strong positive brand. That's why many of those companies are here. But this is a growing conversation point. And the narrative, and I think we've all got into the habit nearly of talking about there will be an appeal and there'll be a judicial review and we're preempting all the drama. But actually, Keith, there's a silent majority who are supporting this project, but they're afraid to come out and talk about it publicly.
Why?
Because it's seen as the unpopular mood. It's seen as the unpopular mood music at the moment. And climate is a huge agenda, but actually the climate argument is being misunderstood in that, because this project is about trying to help drive the change in our city and to be that more sustainable city. And I get criticised every time I say this, because people simplify it and they look at, well, this is just more roads, and more roads are going to lead to more cars. This is actually us playing catch up on a lack of delivery of infrastructure for Galway, that most cities, if we look at progressive cities, not just in Ireland but around the world at this stage, they have a ring road of some sort. And I always go back, and I love every time I go to Amsterdam, you can cycle, you can tram, you can Segway, you can walk on your head nearly. But the only reason they're able to do all that magic is a ring road around the city was put in the 1960s, right? This is what we're playing catch up to. And I think that's a really, really important point. And the whole climate argument, yes, without a doubt, the delivery of the project will see an increase in emissions, but that's a bit like having to make an omelette, you have to break eggs. We need to deliver on this enabling infrastructure so that the city can actually grow by 50%, as Brendan and Jim talk about in ourselves, and actually get to that population figure of 200,000 and beyond. We're never going to get there if it's a case this project isn't delivered.
Yeah, and my concern is if it's kicked into the new year and some of the new carbon emission projects come the way, and I mean, there is a concern that if it goes to there and we get into this whole carbon row, that the ring road could be lost to it, and indeed between Limerick and Cork could be lost to it. So really and truly a decision.
Absolutely.
I don't know, have you heard that now? But
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the bits that was very interesting, so the National Development Plan review came out and it was mentioned once, right? And that's concerning in itself. But the day after the budget, which was ironic, Minister Eamon Ryan did an interview with the Irish Times where he talked about an additional carbon assessment being produced next year for this project and for the Limerick-Cork one. And I let the people in Limerick and Cork fight for their project because they're well able to go. And it's a very different beast. That's a single point-to-point piece of infrastructure. This one for us would actually help declutter and de-choke the cars and the trucks that are at our roundabouts and our junctions that don't need to be. And I think if we're to have any hope of really, really driving this project home. And as I say, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are very publicly supporting the project, and we had meetings with Leo Varadkar just 2 weeks ago, where again he reiterated his absolute support for this project. If we're to have any hope, then we need a united front from Galway and from the wider region, where people are confident to come out and actually talk to the climate agenda on it, because this actually will be an enabling project for our city, a modern city of the future, with all the other good stuff that we need. But we need to equip people with the language, and that's going to be one of my initiatives and roles with my council, and indeed our membership in Chamber, is to try and drive this agenda. But we need not be the lone wolves. We need industry leaders to come out and talk confidently about this. We need community leaders to come out and talk confidently about this. And we need our political leaders, because one of the challenges that we do have, and, you know, we talk to it a bit, and it's not about always talking to the negative, but if we compare ourselves to other cities, we don't have the stronger political portfolios that maybe other locations have. And Minister Hildegard Naughton is doing a good job, but at the moment she's a lone ranger. And what we need actually is getting a unified position behind Hildegard and behind ourselves in the Chamber, and actually calling and banging the drum. And if we have to go back to Leinster House, we will. If it's about media engagement at a national level, we will. But we just need at this stage not to be kind of half-heartedly coming forward and saying, well, will it happen, will it not happen, it'll never happen. It has to happen if we're talking about being that progressive city of the future.
Kenny Deery, thank you for joining us today on the programme. More on that next week on the programme. We have a request into board Pleanála. We will never get details on it, but we think it could be the 5th of December.